What is up, fellas? Welcome to another video. And I'm gonna keep things short and sweet with the intro. You're obviously tired of being skinny, you're tired of being small, and you want to bulk maybe, or maybe you don't want to gain too much fat when you're bulking and trying to gain weight and to get stronger. So that is why I'm gonna teach you guys how to bulk properly without putting on excess fat. It's a lot more simple than you think, but to give you context, this image on the left right here, this is about me 2 years into lifting. Made pretty good progress from where I started. And if you want to see my starting point, there's other videos on YouTube and even in my down in my Instagram for transformations you can check out. But this is me 3 years later, you know, with a substantial amount of progress being made here. Like this physique, some people would say is even a dream physique. And I did that without tracking any macros, without tracking any of my calories, nothing like that, right? I had an idea of what I was eating and I just stuck with it, and we got to here, right? 3 years, probably like three, yeah, three, 2.5 maybe, but yeah, we're good. Straight into this. So, what exactly is a lean bulk? You're probably asking. It's pretty much gaining muscle with minimal fat gain, right? Minimal fat gain, that is the key here. And pretty much you just eat in a small calorie surplus above your maintenance calories. As you see here, this is a calculator of me. I'm 20, I'm 5'10, I'm like 165 morning weight, like probably a little bit more now, but since I'm just out of a bodybuilding prep. And then you see here, for me to grow, I need to be eating, if I want to gain a pound a week, 3,085 calories. If I want to have a half pound a week, 2,800 roughly, right? Probably a little bit more to be honest, because I'll be doing cardio and you burn calories when you sleep, you burn calories when walking. So all of that plays a factor, right? Your total steps also play a factor in, you know, how you go through your calories in the day. But this calculator is online. It's called the TDEE calculator. You can look it up on Google and you can fill out your information and find what you need to be eating, right? It's the amount of calories you should be eating. And then there should no there should not be a rush to get jacked, right? Because if you're in a rush, ideally they're gonna probably be on steroids, or you want some PEDs or a growth hormone to get you out of that state that you're in. But you should not rush getting in shape, right? This physique took 5 years in the making, 5.5 right now, and let me tell you, it was worth it, right? Every single bit earned, every pound of muscle earned, right? Don't be in a rush, right? Take your time, be patient with it, and that makes you enjoy the process even more so that you can sustain your physique and grow throughout your whole entire life, right? Patience plus discipline plus consistency equals great results, right? These three things are key, right? Motivation is crap. Motivation gets you started, but you need to have patience in the process. You need to build discipline. You need to be consistent. You need to show up for yourself no matter how you feel, right? On the days that you don't want to show up or the days that you feel tired, show up, right? But if you're sick, give yourself rest, please. Don't be a dumbass about that. And what is the purpose to lean bulk over dirty bulk, right? Results in a cleaner looking physique. If you're lean bulking, that's kind of obvious, minimal fat gain. Let me fucking move this. All right. And then you have it's better long term for your health, because if you're eating in a small surplus, it's more sustainable rather than, if you're just in a 4,000, 5,000 calorie, whatever surplus, you're going to get fat and you're going to have to cut pretty quick once you get fat, right? And that is why when you lean bulk, you have less fat loss phases in the future, right? It makes it easier to cut in the future, makes it easier to step into bodybuilding prep, etc. And your energy and well-being is increased, because when you're bulking heavily, you're going to be like way down and you're just not going to have energy. You're not going to feel your best, to be honest. But when you're lean bulking, your hormones and everything's like elevated. Your testosterone's probably at a normal rate or even increased. Like everything is just healthier. Apologies for the cut. I can only record for 5 minutes, which kind of sucks. So there may be 5 minute clips and little pauses here and there. But next up is how to diet correctly when lean bulking, right? This is probably the most important part that you need to, get down. You need to engrave this into your mind that your diet is the most important thing when bulking, when cutting anything, right? So when you're lean bulking, it's important to be in a small calorie surplus, like I just said. That is roughly 200 to 300 calories, maybe 400 or 450, depending on your goals, depending on the time frame that you need to get to that certain weight in your growth phase, right? Ideally, you already know it, zero point 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, or like skeletal muscle mass. Like ideally, like people would say I need to eat 180 to 200 grams of protein. Yes, that's great, but you'll be fine with 150, maybe 140. Like you're still going to grow at the same time. And moderate carbs and not as much fats, right? When I say not as much fats, don't take that too literally. Like you're still eating a good amount of fats to keep your hormones regulated so that you're healthy, so that you feel like a normal human being, so that you feel like a man. But you're not going to eat like a boatloads of fat, right? Probably ideally like 60 to 80 grams of fat, I would assume, per day is pretty healthy. And then consistency, even on rest days. I can't stress this enough, right? Even on your rest days, you need to be eating your meals. You need to be hitting your meals, right? Because if you're in a surplus that day, or even if you're in a deficit, not eating as much meals because you're not training, how do you expect to sustain and grow half pound a week or a pound a week, right? Every single day, you need to be consistent. You need to show up. Next up is training. Don't overcomplicate training, right? You need to choose a split that works best for you, right? We all have different schedules. We all have different goals, right? Someone that is really busy that can only train 4 days a week, they'll be doing like an upper lower split, rest, upper lower rest, some shit like that, right? Just pick a split that works for you and what you enjoy doing, but make sure you're training each muscle group twice a week. And you want to train with intensity, right? Your last reps should be hard. Those last 2 to 3 reps, you should be pushing yourself, and make sure to push to a failure, right? You need to stimulate muscle growth, and you need to stop training like a bitch sometimes, right? And progressive overload each week, increase that weight by like 5 pounds every single week. It helps to track your lifts actually. Don't sleep on it. Maybe write down in your notes, or if you have an app, put down the weight you did. Next week, try to do a little bit more than that, so that you're like actively increasing weight and you're getting stronger, right? And you want to optimize quality over quantity, which is your volume, okay? You don't need a boatload of volume, right? I used to fall into this trap a lot, and I'll just be doing too much, and to the point where I'm not even doing anything, right? I'm just working out for fun at that point. And I do love the gym, don't get me wrong, but there's a time where I just need to cut the volume off and just like really focus on the program that I have, and to make sure I'm optimizing the quality of it as well. Next up is your recovery. You need to have recovery. I don't care who you are, right? And you probably heard this millions of times. You need to get 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Your sleep is very important, right? You need to rest. You need to be consistent with your training and diet as well. All these things play a factor. It's all a system if you really think about it, right? You need every single gear to be running and turning if you want to make substantial progress. And you still do your cardio during a lean bulk, during any bulk. Do your cardio. Don't be fucking lazy, right? There's light walking. Like, do an incline on a treadmill. It is not that hard. 15, 20 minutes after your workout 4 times a week, right? You have time for it. I promise you, every single person watching this, you have 20 minutes out of your day to just walk, right? And most importantly, to be honest, manage your stress levels, because if you don't manage your stress levels, that's going to increase your cortisol, and it's just going to like really affect your muscle growth and how your training is going to be. So to manage your stress, go on walks, maybe read, meditate, pray if you're Christian, or if you believe in God, right? I like to read my Bible, and diet, cardio, all these things play a role into that. And last but not least, these are some things to avoid to maximize your growth during a lean bulk phase, right? Eating in too big of a surplus is going to result in rapid fat gain, right? If you're eating in a 600, 800 calorie deficit or surplus, right, you're going to gain fat. It's that simple, right? Keep it moderate. Trust the process, right? There's no rush to get jacked. Like I said in like the second slide, there's no rush to get jacked. Do not neglect progressive overload. If you're not training hard, if you're not increasing your weight every single week or every 2 weeks, right? How do you expect to grow? How do you expect to get stronger? How do you expect, to gain muscle? You're not going to gain muscle if you're not training hard, if you're not training, till failure or close to a failure, right? With maybe like 1 or 2 reps in reserve, you'll be fine if training hurts for you. But now I'm playing. And then changing workouts too quickly when progress stalls, right? The program that you have for yourself, maybe you're trying a new split. Like, let's say, for example, push pull legs, rest, upper lower rest. Give it a chance. Just because you don't like it for 2 weeks, don't stop and change your whole program around, right? Do it consistently for like 8 weeks to 10 weeks. And I promise you, you're going to make progress no matter what. But you can't just stop switching your workouts around just because you're bored, right? Ideally, like every 3 to 4 weeks, maybe swap out a certain lift, a workout, but don't swap out the whole entire lift or the program, right? Like, for example, if you don't like doing lat pull downs, swap it out with like weighted pull ups and see how that goes, right? And then lastly, don't overdo your cardio because obviously, if you're bulking, you don't want to be burning too many calories because you want to grow, right? So don't be running like hella unless you're a hybrid athlete. You shouldn't be watching this video, to be honest. But don't overdo your cardio so you can maximize your muscle growth and gain weight substantially. And lastly, in the description of this video, my one-on-one coaching application will be there if you want to work with me one-on-one, and if you want to self-develop yourself mentally, physically, and even spiritually. If you're a Christian, you want to get deeper into your faith, right? I'll be running Bible studies soon in a few weeks with the clients, but results are for the committed, and I'm just opening that invite to you guys if you want to work with me one-on-one. So hope you guys enjoy the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.